Hey everybody, Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com to talk about the greatest match endings in wrestling history. There have been a lot of incredible matches over the years, but it's the finishes of those matches that leave a lasting impression. I asked people on Facebook and Twitter for their input, got a lot of responses, and I've come up with a list here, so let's get to it. First off, No Way Out 2004. Eddie Guerrero winning the WWE title from Brock Lesnar. This was significant because it wasn't just any person winning the title. It was Eddie Guerrero, a guy who was loved so much by fans, but someone who you never thought would end up being WWE champion. A lot of people wrote off Eddie Guerrero as just being too small, that he wasn't big enough to be a WWE champion. But Eddie Guerrero proved all the doubters wrong, and to see him there celebrating and that real emotion of him winning the title, I mean, it was a very special moment in WWE history and for a lot of fans to see Eddie finally reach the top. Shane McMahon and Steve Blackman from SummerSlam 2000. This was just an incredible finish to this match. It was for the hardcore title. You had Shane and Steve climbing up this scaffold at the stage, and you have Shane McMahon being knocked off, and he falls something like 40 to 50 feet. I mean, it was incredible. And then you have Steve Blackman jumping off all the way down onto Shane McMahon. Just an incredible high-risk spot, and you know, it was spectacular. I mean, that's really all you can say about it, and you know, people still talk about it to this day when you think about the biggest bumps in wrestling history and then the biggest spots. I mean, this was definitely one of them. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at SummerSlam 1994. This was considered to be one of the best cage matches in WWE history during that period. And the finish was really cool because this was back when WWE still had the blue bars, and you couldn't do this with a regular cage that they use now, but you had both guys climbing down the cage, and then Bret Hart hits Owen Hart, and Owen Hart's feet actually get stuck in the cage. And I mean, it's just a really cool visual way to end the match. And it was just something unique that you didn't see all that often. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at Bad Blood 97. One of the best cage matches of all time, one of the greatest matches in WWE history, and people remember it not just for the quality of the match, but for the finish, which was the surprise debut of Kane. Kane finally making his first appearance, and you have Vince McMahon screaming, "It's gotta be Kane!" And then Kane comes out, tombstones Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels, who's a bloody mess, puts one hand over the Undertaker and gets the win. Just one of the most memorable finishes of all time. Triple H versus Cactus Jack at No Way Out. This was the retirement of Mick Foley, and everybody remembers the first, or not the first Hell in a Cell match, but the first one with Mick Foley in it as Mankind, him and The Undertaker, when he fell off the Hell in a Cell. They tried to repeat that with this match where Triple H back body dropped Cactus through the cage and he went all the way down, and this time it was well planned out, and you know, the canvas was configured so he could fall right down through it and it would cushion his fall. But it was still a really spectacular way to end Mick Foley's career, having him go through the cell one more time. And then after the match, just very emotional with Mick Foley there, and the crowd chanting for him, and you know, it was just a spectacular way to go out for Mick Foley. Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase at WrestleMania 4. This was a really cool moment to see Randy Savage finally win the WWE title, and he went through a one-night tournament. All the odds were against him, and he somehow overcame everything, and with the help of Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage won the title, and that was the beginning of the Mega Power. So, I mean, that was definitely one of the best finishes for a WWE title match during that period. Edge versus John Cena at New Year's Resolution 2006. Wasn't really much of a match, but it was all about Edge cashing in Money in the Bank, and the very first Money in the Bank cash-in. A lot of people brought this up, so I'm mentioning it here, but it wasn't really much of a match. So I mean, it was just a great moment in general, but you know, it wasn't all that much in terms of match. It only went something like a minute. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Everybody remembers the ending of this match. It's the ending that really made it something to remember. With Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant. The body slam heard around the world. One of the most replayed moments in WWE history. Whenever they do the video packages, they always show Hogan body slamming Andre and then hitting the big boot and getting the pinfall. Just the whole fact that it happened there, Pontiac Silverdome, WrestleMania, it's one of the top finishes of all time, no doubt about it. Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels versus Triple H at WrestleMania 20. Like No Way Out with Eddie Guerrero, it was very special to see Chris Benoit win the World Heavyweight title, something you never thought you would see. Chris Benoit reaching the very top of the mountain in WWE. And then to top it off, you have Benoit and Guerrero celebrating in the ring together with all the confetti and right there in Madison Square Garden. Just something you never thought was going to happen. Brock Lesnar versus The Big Show from SmackDown in 2003. Everybody remembers this. I mean, people don't really remember the match, but it's how the match ended that gave you that lasting impression. And that's when Brock Lesnar suplexed The Big Show from the top, and they literally broke the ring. And you could just see the reaction of the crowd. Like, everybody was like, oh my God. It was really spectacular, and both guys they reacted like they were dead. And the referee was just in total shock, and I mean, it was complete carnage. I mean, that's really the best way to describe it. Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan on Nitro in 1998. This was just a big moment in WCW history, one of their biggest moments of all time, to have Goldberg, who's undefeated, beat Hulk Hogan right in the middle of the ring to win the WCW title undefeated. I mean, that was something that was unheard of. And it was in the Georgia Dome, so I mean, it was the perfect venue and one of the biggest pops you'll ever hear for a title change. So just an incredible finish and an incredible way to build Goldberg as your top superstar. The Rock versus Mankind, the first Raw of 1999. Everybody remembers this. The first time that Mankind won the WWE title, Stone Cold came out and hit Rock with a chair. Mankind got the pin, and like Goldberg winning the title, I mean, this got one of the biggest pops of all time for a title change. And the celebration with Mankind, another guy you never thought would win the world title, had done it here, and just a turning point in the Monday Night Wars as well. Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24. Certainly one of the most emotional finishes of all time. I think a lot of people knew going into this match that it was going to be Ric Flair's last match. You know, there was the whole stipulation, he loses a match, he's gone, and everyone was sensing that this was going to be the last match for Flair. And Shawn Michaels doing the whole I'm sorry, I love you, before delivering the final super kick to end the career. And then right when it's over, Shawn embraces him, and it was just very emotional. You had grown men crying in the audience. I mean, that's the kind of impact that this had, and just one of those finishes that you'll never forget. I mean, it's one of those classic WrestleMania moments. Shawn Michaels and Shelton Benjamin from the Gold Rush tournament in 2005. It's amazing how people still remember this. I mean, this was just a random match on Raw, but everybody talks about it all the time, and it got a ton of votes here when I put up a poll. You had Shelton Benjamin coming off the ropes doing a springboard, and Shawn Michaels turns it into a super kick in midair. I mean, it was definitely one of the most spectacular finishes to a match, and WWE used it in the Raw intro for several years. I mean, it was that spectacular, and just the timing was perfect on it. And, people are still talking about it to this day, so there you go. Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. Like Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair 2 years earlier, this was just very emotional because you were sensing that this was the end of Shawn Michaels' career. And Undertaker wants him to stay down. He won't stay down, so Undertaker gives him a jumping tombstone piledriver to finally finish off Shawn Michaels and end his career. So I mean, it was it was weird. It was like deja vu to see the career ending, but this time it was Shawn Michaels who was having his career ended, and not the other way around. Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger against the Outsiders at Bash at the Beach '96. I mean, what else can be said? I mean, we all know the story here. Hulk Hogan came out and revealed himself as the third man with the Outsiders and gave Randy Savage the leg drop, and the NWO was formed. So, I mean, it's one of those moments, perhaps the most memorable moment in the history of WCW when Hogan dropped that big leg on Randy Savage. John Cena and CM Punk from Money in the Bank 2011. Certainly in recent WWE history, I think that this is the moment that people remember the most fondly. To have CM Punk, I mean, it was the perfect situation to have CM Punk win the WWE title in his hometown. It's just all the stars were aligned here, and it just made for a very magical moment to have CM Punk win, and you know the whole storyline with his contract being up. He goes into the crowd and celebrates with the fans, and he leaves the WWE with the championship. I mean, it was one of those moments that is truly once in a lifetime. We'll probably never see something like that, quite like that again. Bret Hart and the British Bulldog from SummerSlam '92. Just one of the greatest matches of all time. And then out of nowhere, Bret Hart wins it, and then you have a very emotional moment with the two of them embracing, and you have Diana Hart come in, and all three of them celebrating together. Just one of the great SummerSlam moments and great moments in Bret Hart's career. And speaking of Bret Hart, SummerSlam '91 when he beat Mr. Perfect, he got the sharpshooter on Mr. Perfect out of nowhere, and the crowd just went crazy. And it was very cool to see Bret Hart win the IC title, and it meant a lot to fans to see somebody like Bret Hart, who was this workhorse and a guy who really busted his ass to finally win the title. Randy Orton versus Evan Bourne from Raw in 2010. This was another one of those really cool spots where you had Evan Bourne doing airborne, and all of a sudden, as he's in midair, Randy Orton turns it into an RKO out of nowhere. And it's one of those clips like Shelton Benjamin and Shawn Michaels that is played over and over on Raw. And, you know, fans still talk about it to this day, and it happened several years ago. People are still looking back at that moment. It was just something really, really cool. And finally, in my opinion, the #1 greatest finish of all time. For those of you that know me, you'll know what I'm going to say here. Steve Austin and Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. The double turn. Steve Austin turning face, Bret Hart turning heel. Bret Hart putting Steve Austin in the sharpshooter. Steve Austin bleeding like crazy, but refusing to give up. Just a key moment in WWE history, a turning point. The beginning of the Attitude Era. I mean, this was just the best finish you could possibly do to make people sympathetic towards Steve Austin. And, you know, after the match is over, Steve Austin passes out. And like a good heel, Bret Hart kicks him while he's down. And that's the beginning of the Bret Hart heel turn. Just awesome, awesome match. And in my opinion, the greatest finish of all time. So there you have it. My thoughts on the greatest match endings in wrestling history. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest in WWE and TNA.